Hey everyone, it's Kevin, and in today's video, I'm going to tell you about something that's really toxic for your mind. If you haven't already, hit the subscribe button so you never miss a video, and if you want to speak with me, there is a link below. Start your YouTube channel today, check out the Creative Business Academy by Essetino Artists, there is also a link below. If you live in the United States, we're going through some crazy times right now. We just finished 3 months of lockdown, and then we immediately went into riot mode. So there were some riots last weekend in multiple US cities. It started in Minneapolis when a police officer literally suffocated a black gentleman who he had pulled over, and that sparked just tons of outrage and riots and looting and all over the country. So it's like we've gone from, it's amazing how things have changed. We went from lockdown to everybody in the streets in just a matter of days. Now, this video is not about racism or police brutality. I'm not here to make those comments. That's not the point of the channel. But I do see something that is really harmful for our mental health. And this channel is about eating right, but it's also about mental health, because eating disorders are about mental health. I want to make a few comments about outrage. I feel like we're always outraged about something, and this is the latest example of it. This isn't the first time we've had race riots and a lot of controversy about racism. I remember that Trayvon Martin case back in Orlando. That was 8 years ago. It seems like yesterday. And then we had Ferguson, then we had Baltimore, and I'm probably missing a bunch of other ones. But this is every 1 or 2 years something like this happens and it sparks outrage. But we live in this environment where we have constant media, and we're constantly in conversation with people around the world. And for the first time in human history, you can have a conversation with somebody that you don't even know. It used to be you only had conversations with people in your physical environment, but now we can go on to Twitter, YouTube, wherever, and we can have these constant conversations. News moves really fast. We get news on our phones. Some people have smartwatches, so they're getting news by the minute. The news cycle is so fast, and it's evolving every minute. So what was in the news 1 or 2 weeks ago is not in the news anymore, and now we're on to the next story. For example, just a week ago we were all talking about, the lockdowns and the pandemic, and now we're talking about police brutality and systemic racism. It's almost like we've forgotten what we were talking about 1 or 2 weeks before, and now we're on to something new. So I see two things going on here. One, I see limited attention span. We are constantly bombarded with stimuli. We have media and stimuli competing for our attention. We're just bombarded with it all day long, and we never escape. Because it used to be back in the day that when you were commuting or when you were at work, you didn't have a lot of connection. You were kind of disconnected for the day. Now it's like there's never a moment when we can escape, because we have our phones and our watches and our tablets with us all the time. And then two, the compulsive nature of it. So there's that aspect. It's the constant stimuli. It's the lack of attention. It's the inability to concentrate on one thing. And I think this has effects on our behavior and our habits, is we can't focus on anything. I think the attention span has been going down for decades. It used to be back in the 1800s, early 1900s, statesmen and politicians would give these 2-hour orations, and people would stand there and listen. It was almost like watching a movie. Can you imagine people doing that now? Now everything has to be in a little soundbite. But a deeper problem here is the constant outrage. We're always being told to be outraged about something. And don't get me wrong, like what happened up in Minneapolis was outrageous. I mean, who could watch that and be like, and not have any sort of reaction? I mean, how could somebody just be so brutal like that? But the point is, at every moment of the day, there is something to be outraged about. It doesn't matter. The truth is, there are a million things that you could be outraged about. You could be outraged, and I'm not even going to list them here, but if you look hard enough, there's some unnecessary use of violence around the world. There is needless suffering. There's some politician doing something that's kind of sketchy. You could be outraged your whole life, and the point I'm trying to make is not that you should not be outraged. I mean, if you feel outraged about this incident, that's fine. You can't go through your life outraged all the time. And I think we live in this outrage culture where there's just always some controversy. The president is making some tweet, and now we have to be mad about that. Or an athlete says something that's controversial, or remember a few years ago, a football player kneeled during the national anthem. That sparked all sorts of controversy. There's just always some new form of outrage, and I don't think this is healthy for our minds. I don't think we can live our lives in a constant state of outrage. So imagine if you had a bucket and you only had so many outrage coins in the bucket. How many do you want to spend? And I feel like right now everybody's spending all of their outrage on this one incident. Thing is, these kind of incidents happen all the time. Okay, I think the statistic is one person is killed by a police officer every day in the United States. Now, how many of those are justified? How many aren't? How many of those are racially motivated? How many aren't? I don't know. That's not the point of the video. But I'm saying this isn't the first time this has happened. And there are other things in the world that are happening that would probably outrage you. So if you take anything from this video, it's quit being outraged all the time. It is fine to have emotions and to have some visceral reaction to what happened. And I'm not saying that the protesters shouldn't be protesting. I mean, they have every right to do that. The looters, on the other hand, well, that's a different story. But if people are outraged about this and they want change, fine. I just want you to understand that there's always going to be something that you could be outraged about, and life is too short to always be outraged. So what do we do about this? The other thing I see is the feelings of guilt. I was going through Instagram and looking at some of the creators that I follow, and a lot of them were, outraged, but some of the ones that were Caucasian felt a sense of guilt. They felt like they were they had some sort of responsibility for this. And I don't think that's necessarily justified. So I'm Caucasian, right? The cop in Minneapolis was Caucasian, and the victim was black, which makes this really controversial, right? But every day there's some Caucasian in this country who's doing something bad, who's using unnecessary force. And I can't be outraged every time that happens, and I can't feel guilty every time that happens. Unless you harm somebody, you shouldn't feel guilty. You shouldn't feel guilty about who you are. You shouldn't feel guilty about your skin color. You shouldn't feel guilty about your ethnicity or the language you speak or your facial features. There are some things that you can't control. It's like you had no say in the matter, okay? Your parents gave birth to you at a certain time in a certain place. That was kind of beyond your control, and you shouldn't feel guilty about that. So it's one thing to take a stand and say this was unnecessary use of force, and it was, and to have that visceral reaction, that's totally fine. But to feel guilty about it when it wasn't your fault, you weren't the one who suffocated this poor guy. Okay, that wasn't your choice, and I hope that they use the full extent of the law to prosecute the officer who did that. But we should be outraged by any unnecessary use of force. And when somebody who is like us, same race, same skin color, does something that's outrageous, we shouldn't feel guilty. We should take action. And I think what's even more important is that we don't be the problem ourselves. So this leads me to my solution. What do we do about this? We should be better every day. We should serve others. We should be selfless. We should always be innovating, looking for new solutions for our clients and our customers. So if you're an entrepreneur, you need to be studying your craft and looking for new solutions. If you're an employee, you need to become a better employee. You need to make a positive contribution to your community. You need to respect others. You need to respect privacy. Be a good person. I know this sounds kind of cheesy, but really that's all you can do, is treat others the way that they should be treated. And if somebody has a problem that you can solve, help that person. You shouldn't deny somebody service because you don't like the way they look or the language they speak. I mean, that's been outlawed for years now. But even if it weren't outlawed, you shouldn't do it anyway. I also recommend that you limit your social media time, especially the political coverage. I've noticed that since the pandemic started, I've been spending a lot of time on Twitter, spending way too much time on that. I enjoy the conversation, and there are some useful tweets, links to articles that, that's fine. But I find that the conversation can become toxic sometimes, and everybody's outraged. And whenever there's a controversy, everybody chimes in and shares their opinion and their emotions. And I find that it doesn't really help. Social media, I think, should be fun. It should be a place where we come to educate ourselves and to learn more and learn how to improve our lives and how to make money and how to lose weight and how to look better and how to make more money in business, you know, whatever. That should be the point of social media. So if you're a creator, just produce fun content, educational content. At the end of each video, I say, I hope you found this video educational and entertaining. Why? Because that's what YouTube should be. It should be educational and entertaining. So if you're into politics, fine, but I would limit it because you only have so much control over that. The one thing you do have control over is your two hands and your mouth. And sometimes that's all you have control over. So if you see something that's outrageous, just don't be the problem to begin with. You know, examine yourself first. Are you contributing to the problem? And be honest with yourself. And if you are, fix it. Okay, but if you're not, you know, don't feel guilty. But change starts with you. So I wanted to make this video because, like everybody, had some feelings about this whole thing. Yes, I am outraged too, but I also have a life to live, and I have content to produce, and I have clients to serve, and I have my own personal goals. And if I'm just in a constant state of outrage all the time, I'm not going to be able to show up. And that's the problem. If you are outraged and angry all the time, can you show up for other people? And can you be the change that you want to be? Okay, that's enough for now. Like I say at the end of every video, I hope you found this educational and entertaining. Don't forget to subscribe, and if you want to speak with me about eating disorders and about eating right, you can click the link below. I would recommend other videos, but there's really no other video like this on my channel at the moment, so I'm just going to end it here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.